Okay, so I think we can start the webinar now. Good morning, good evening, and namaste to all the attendees. I am Devendra, founder of ResponsiveB, and your host for today's webinar. As a quick introduction, ResponsiveB is an agile consulting firm and SAFe Gold SPCT partner. We have helped clients in Asia, Europe, and US in implementing agile and SAFe to achieve business goals. Please visit our website www.responsiveb.com to know more on our services related to coaching, consulting, training, and workforce enablement. A very warm welcome and thank you for taking time out on a busy weekday and joining this enlightening webinar on evolution of SAFe to accelerate business agility and flow. We will ensure you get maximum value in this 1 hour. With this, I will introduce our speakers for today. We have two eminent speakers today. The first esteemed speaker is Joe Vallone from Scaled Agile, who is an experienced Agile coach, SPCT, and SAFe Fellow at Scaled Agile Inc., and has been involved in lean and agile communities since 2002. Listed among TechBeacon's top agile scaling expert, Joe has implemented large-scale agile transformation using various frameworks at several Fortune 100 companies. He is an effective leader and speaker with over 25 years of software development and leadership experience. Our second valued speaker is Neeraj Bachani, who is an SPCT and has been associated with Agile World for more than 15 years out of total 2+ decades of IT experience, and was among the first few to implement SAFe and train in SAFe in India. He has worked with many industries, including finance, automobiles, semiconductor, travel, and healthcare, to name a few. With this, without further ado, I invite Joe to take over the steering wheel for this interesting webinar. Over to you, Joe.
All right. Thank you very much, Devendra. And I'd also like to say welcome to this webinar. I will be talking about enhancing the business agility, and then Neeraj will be following up. And a special thank you to our partner, ResponsiveB. Great that you are providing this platform for us. So please do check out ResponsiveB's website, as Devendra mentioned previously. All right. So I'm assuming you can see my slides. Just give me a thumbs up, Neeraj, if that's okay. Yep. Great. So let's get started. So we're starting off with a quick quote from Mick Kirsten. Mick wrote the book From Project to Product, and what he states there is the absolute truth now in the 21st century, which those who master large-scale software delivery will define the economic landscape of the 21st century. And we have to acknowledge that software is everywhere now, and it eats the world, and it is very complex and difficult to produce with any type of predictability or consistency. So mastering this large-scale delivery is really what Mick's book was all about, and how to use his new flow framework to produce that software. Quote from the creator of SAFe, Dean Leffingwell: "To thrive in the digital age," which is exactly what Mick Kirsten was talking about, "you need business agility." What does it take to do that? Well, simply new mindsets, new values, new principles, and new practices. So how do we get there? Well, how is SAFe performing for customers right now? Is this working? Well, according to Gartner, and this is an important quote that we've talked about, and Gartner has said their research, this is Gartner's research, the research says that implementing SAFe can deliver significant and measurable business value in these complex initiatives. So the key word here that I want you to keep in mind is measurable. This is not things that we're just inventing. These are actual things that are available and you can see in the market. the type of results that we've gotten, these measurable results, happen to be the 30, 50, 35, 50. So this is all about time to market, better response from our customers, happier, more motivated employees. These are not our numbers. These came from our customers. You can see this in the customer stories in the URL before across many different domains and industries. Not going to elaborate on that, but this is kind of a who's who of who has been implementing SAFe and getting the type of results that we're talking about here. So you can see this is a wide variety from across different types of domains, everything from aerospace to energy and healthcare and government to, technology and fintech. What does it take to get there? What are these companies doing? Well, they are embracing new practices and new ways of working. And you'll see in the new SAFe 6.0, and this is, we just released SAFe 6.0 yesterday on the 15th in the US on Mountain Time. And you can see at the very top, business agility. If I annotate this just a little bit, you can see that business agility is now front and center. Right up top, clicking on that, actually brings up our business agility article and all of a highlight really of all of the new ways of working and the new practices that it takes to attain this business agility. And we're actually going to be talking about a few of these today. So with that, I'll continue to move on. So there are 5 patterns that we've identified that helps us with business agility and in general, really trying to get accelerate our time to market. And it's not just about getting to the market fast. It's also about making sure that we get there with high quality and with the solutions that the customers expect from us. It's one thing for the customer to tell the market, hey, this is what we're looking for, or to tell a company, this is what we're looking for, and for that company to give them something completely different, right? That's not the outcomes that we're searching for. So the 5 patterns that we've identified that leads to success in business agility. And if you're familiar with SAFe, this may look new because this is part of SAFe 6.0. But this is all about these 5 areas of improvement. So one is, and I'll dive into each one of these as we go forward, but it's important to just kind of mention them up front that we're talking about. One pattern is a business enabled art. So it's not just engineers, it's not just developers and testers and business analysts and configurators. It's also business people from other areas of, say, the operation portion or the operation value stream. Another is a business and agile business train, which is really just on the operational side exclusively. So we need to talk a little bit more about that. The agile executive team, which is also pretty critical. And we will talk about what that looks like. What does an agile executive team look like? What is their role? As well as the agile business function. It applies to learning and is able to streamline practices. And then finally, the combined portfolio. So I'm not going to take it in this exact order, but we will discuss all of these. Now, there's an important bullet point to observe here, and this is about moving from the IP from beyond IT to full business agility. Why? What problem are we trying to solve there? Why is that so critical? And the answer to that is, well, if you look at it from a systems perspective, SAFe takes an entire systems view, a whole systems view. And the original focus of IT, the original focus of a lot of the lean practices and agile practices was IT. Extreme programming, a lot of the early methodologies in agility and the agile framework or the manifesto itself was really focused on IT. It even says software in the Agile Manifesto in the first sentence. I'm not talking about the first values, but the first sentence. And you have to ask yourself, okay, let's say we're successful. Let's say we get IT or engineering agile. So what? You've only done half the job. We need to get the entire enterprise, because systems, holistic systems thinking teaches us that just getting one part of the solution efficient, right? The whole thing can only move as fast as the slowest component. So if IT is efficient and the business is not, what have you really gained? Nothing. So you've only gotten half the job if you're only getting IT. This talks about getting the entire enterprise into business agility. So let's talk about that. So in the first case, we have safe business and technology. This is a business-enabled art. So this is a new pattern that we're talking about 6.0. It's something we've observed over time. And this is where you have a typical agile release train, which may be on a value stream, and it may have many trains with even in that value stream. But if you look at this, this is leveraging quick direct input. What is the quick direct input? It's from the business people. So we have our typical development teams, IT teams, configuration teams, testing teams that are there in a typical art, but we've also added business representation. It could be people from HR, could be people from legal, could be people from finance that are helping to work with the agile teams. Business and technology training. What about a business train? This pattern is an entire business. So think of an operational value stream that is really being supported by development value stream. So we've seen this before in the sense of, oh, we have an operational value stream, and this operational value stream has these systems. Well, here we're just saying you could have the case where you have an operational, so total business operational value stream that has a train on one or more trains on that operational value stream, and that's being supported by development value stream. So this could be where we align true alignment between the business and the operational mode of the enterprise, as well as getting engagement from the development value stream. Think about it. They're speaking the same language, they're using the same terminology, and they are aligning around the same business objectives. What about the case where we have a combined portfolio? Those who have used SAFe in the past, or those who have looked at SAFe in the past, and well, you're only concentrating on the development value stream. And that was true for earlier versions of SAFe. But look at it now, a combined portfolio. Well, what are we combining? We're combining both the operational objectives, the operational epics, the operational enablers, as well as the development value streams and the things that the development value streams, usually enablers, sometimes epics that they're focusing on at this level. So we use the same things that we've always done in terms of lean budgets, adding in additional analysis in terms of measuring what matters in big data. And these are all focused on the operational side and the development side, both. And there is coordination between the two. So we are no longer just looking at the development value stream. We are taking into consideration the operational objectives, as well as the cost, as well as the finances at the operational side as well. What about the technology patterns that we have on here as well? So we can have an agile business function where, okay, these are all your typical types of development arts, but what about contributions from other business teams or other agile teams aligned across a business function? What if you have things like agile marketing, agile HR, and those people want to get involved in and along the business, in the development functions as well, because they have contributions? Well, in those cases, those teams may act as shared services. They may act as shared services to the other arts on the train, meaning they are teams, they are specialized teams. You can have a specialized team in HR, you can have a specialized team in marketing, you can have a specialized team in finance, and they are providing supporting function to one or more development value streams, or the arts on those development value streams. So this is a new way of developing this in a supportive business function. What is the gain on that? Alignment. alignment to the value of the business. And then we have the executive team. Look, Dean has said this over and over again. He has this great quote that he talks about, and it's, how do you lead what you don't know? How do you make decisions about things that you don't understand? And that's a pitch towards the Agile executive team, the Agile leadership. We want these folks to understand what it is that is being delivered, and we want them to lead that. We want them to lead that effort. And the bottom line here of the Agile executive team is it's not enough for buy-in. Buy-in is great. Don't get me wrong. We need buy-in, but buy-in itself is insufficient. Buy-in is cute. It's nice. You know, we need it. It's great. But what we really want, what we're searching for is engagement. What are we asking for from our leadership? We're asking them to lead. We're asking them to lead with new ways of working and in this new digital age of the 21st century. But to do that, they have to gain the knowledge. And I went to a pretty good business school, and I continue to teach graduate courses in universities. And I can tell you that the knowledge around flow and business agility is not being taught at that level. So they need to gain the knowledge elsewhere. And the elsewhere is in the new version of SAFe 6.0. To do that, we introduced 8 flow accelerators, okay? This is from the new refactored principle number 6 on SAFe. Now, I'm not going to go through of all of these. Neeraj, in his presentation, is going to resurface the 8 flow accelerators, and he's going to talk about these in a bit more detail. I think right now it's sufficient for you to know that there are 8 flow accelerators and that we will describe them in detail later. But here is just an overview of the type of flow accelerators that we're looking for. These accelerators are being distributed across all the levels at SAFe. So we are improving flow. Mixbook and SAFe 6.0 is focused on delivering measurable business value to our customers. How are we going to do that? Well, how we're going to do that is we need to measure these things. And we can do that with flow. We can measure the flow and we can enhance the flow. So what are we focusing on? Let's get our products and services, our solutions, into the hands of our customers as quickly as possible with good quality. And so we have distributed these flow accelerators across the team level, the art level, the solution level, and even at the portfolio level to enhance portfolio flow. And the question becomes, well, how do we know this is successful? As an introduction to this, I showed you a number of customers that are using SAFe, that are having success with SAFe. Well, what's success? How do we know this is working? How do we know that we can improve that? These are valid questions. And even at the executive level, how do we know we're getting our money's worth? Let's face it, if you want to do a transformation, if you want to invest, and it is an investment in new ways of working, you should be able to get a return for that investment. Excuse me. How do we do that? Well, the only way to do that is to measure, and we have to measure what matters. And so, are we really going faster? Are we improving flow? And we have flow metrics that are being used here. So we have the flow load, the flow distribution, predictability, efficiency, velocity, how fast, and the amount of time that it's taken us to do these deliveries. We feel that these measures that Neeraj is going to talk a little bit more about, we feel that these measures help capture the flow of business value and how well we're doing at it. So the other thing that we can do to measure this, so again, as Gartner said, measurable business results, okay? The other thing that we're using to do that is with OKRs. So we're not just interested in measuring output, we want to see the outcomes. And to measure those, we need the OKRs. These were invented early on by Andy Grove at Intel. And we think that there are three cornerstones associated with this. We call this measure and grow. We're all housing our metrics as part of the measure and grow. And we think that there are three areas that we really need to concentrate on. One is, we talked about already, flow. How well are we delivering? How fast are we delivering? How much are we delivering? What's the value of what we're delivering? So that would be measured by the outcomes. We use OKRs. So flow metrics here, OKRs here, and then overall measure and grow in terms of competency. Do we have the competency to do the delivery of these things? This is our new business, our business agility value stream. As I mentioned before, this is now front and center in SAFe 6.0. And if you click on that business agility section up top on the big picture, the framework, it will show you this business agility value stream and also talk about these different areas of concentration. So with these different areas of concentration, we talked a little bit about flow. What about the outcomes themselves? Well, we think there's three primary areas that we can focus on in terms of outcomes. One is, or a couple of these are on the building of the solutions. We have strategic themes. These strategic themes can be measured quite well with OKRs. And I'll talk about that in a moment. Second would be for lean business case and epics. Let's measure the outcome of these epics. Hey, lean business cases are there because epics are big. Epics are expensive. We need to make sure we're getting our money's worth. And then finally, transforming the organization. So we should be able to measure our transformation as well. What kind of return are we getting from the transformation? We're investing a lot of money and time and effort and coaches and training on this. What are we getting out of it? We should be able to measure those things. So let's talk about the first use case. What about alignment across portfolio? Well, OKRs can be used to measure this. We can measure the portfolio themes, strategic themes. Very simply, we want to remove a lot of the hippo type of epics. You know, hippo, highest paid person in the organization. We're trying to eliminate that. In other words, if we're working on something, a product or a service, if it's not aligned to our strategy, why are we working on it? I'll say it again. Why are we working on things that are not aligned to our strategy? We shouldn't be. That's not valuable. That's wasteful. So when we go into the portfolio, we want to make sure we are aligned to our strategy. Our value streams, we should be able to measure the outcomes delivered in our value streams. Are we producing value? So we measure there. And then what about our overall objectives? We have objectives that we create in PI planning as part of our ARCs. We should be, those are outcome focused. Those are outcome objectives. We should be able to measure that as well. So enhancement across the portfolio for alignment. Then we should be able to define our business outcomes in our lean business cases and in our epics as well. So an example of the type of OKRs we might want to measure here and the types of epics that are going to help provide the work. There should be alignment between the outcomes that we're searching for and the epics that we're working on. And then finally, the third use case is all around setting the goals for the transformation. As I said, we're investing money into the transformation. We're engaging high-value partners like ResponsiveB. We should be able to measure that. We should be able to measure our outcomes in terms of our overall transformation. Are we getting our money's worth for the effort that we're putting into this? So we can measure these investments, as you see here, on overall outcomes, delivery, and fulfillment. You know, are we meeting our customers' expectation? So what does it take to get there? We have a proven path. A lot of people look at this and they think, well, SAFe is really big, it's really complex. It's not. We have different configurations at SAFe. We start at the very, very bare minimum of just scaling a team of agile teams all the way up to full SAFe and portfolio and large solutions. It really depends on your context, but we do have a way to start and we have a way to finish these things. So this is all about following a proven path. People ask all the time, well, SAFe looks complex. It's not. Is it difficult to get started with? It's not. We have an entire roadmap that has been proven over the years, carefully aligned to Dr. John Cotter's 8 steps for change. There is data behind this, which proves this is the right way to get started. And, we're trying to build the world's most trusted systems for business agility. And to do that, it takes a few things. It takes a community. There are thousands, tens of thousands. I think we've got over, over 100,000 people certified. There's about, close to 20,000 SPCs out there, even more for leading SAFe. A lot of people certified in the SAFe community to help support. It takes great partners like ResponsiveB to be able to support us. And then it takes the practices, the learning, to build these new ways of working, these new ideas, and to support that, we have SAFe Studio, which is not only SAFe Collaborate and partner tools, measure and grow, and being able to not only measure yourself, but compare yourself on how well you're doing across others in the industry. And so there's an entire supportive infrastructure within SAFe that consists of the tools, the community, and the partners that we have available for that. So with that, I am going to switch over to Raj. We will have a time at the end of this for interactive live question and answers. So with that, Neeraj, I am going to turn it over to you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Joe. And I'll bring up my set of content out there. Yes, people have started to ask questions. So, we would be answering those towards the end. I hope you all can see my screen. Yeah, just show me a sign that you can. Okay, thank you. So, very exciting time indeed, the new version of SAFe. We were all looking towards this new version. I know the pandemic came in between, but since 2019, so many things have changed. And with this new version, also comes in some new themes. As you can see my screen, I'm going to talk a few of those themes that have come in. There are total in all 6 themes that version 6.0 has brought in. And I'm going to specifically focus on strengthening the foundation for business agility, and what Joe briefly described as extending or enhancing the business agility with SAFe across the businesses. But then my second part is also going to be focusing on how do you accelerate value flow, and why are these two so important for any organization in today's ever-changing, ever-dynamic world. Right. So the very first thing that has been introduced, as you guys can all see, is the business agility value stream. Now, what is business agility value stream? It's still based on the concept of value stream, but this is where the entire organization needs to respond together as a system. What Joe mentioned earlier as systems thinking, a part optimization doesn't optimize the entire system. And this is where the organization needs to look at what kind of various steps do we take together as a system, as an organization, so that we are able to counter, we are able to respond to any change that happens in the market, right? And a very simple example can be, for example, an organization identifies an opportunity to build a mission critical large solution. And maybe, the executives need to get involved for any strategy change. Of course, the software and the hardware teams need to get involved for, first of all, creating an MVP. Maybe, the HR needs to get organized, the teams to build around those systems, so on and so forth. And maybe later on, the legal, the finance, the compliance may also need to step in. And this is where the business agility value stream will help the organization to really understand, are we responding to change together as a unit, or are we still doing agility in an ad hoc, in a pocketed manner, right? And this is where some more changes that you would see have been brought in. And again, I'm covering the part where these changes in the framework are going to strengthen the business agility for any enterprise, for any organization. And one of the change that you can also see has been brought in the core values is that now we are bringing in two core values, the respect for people and of course the relentless improvement. Now, keep in mind, SAFe also in the previous versions used to focus on these values, but now it has become part of the core values because we really want our leaders to bring in this belief and let it percolate down to the entire organization as a culture. Which means the very first thing we also look at is we need to respect people who are actually going to deliver value to your customers. And for the system to really improve holistically, again, from the systems thinking perspective, we need to bring in the relentless improvement. And I don't need to mention that, I don't need to remind people and organizations that previously, in the previous era, in the previous decades, when organization did not do the relentless improvement, how big organizations like Nokia, like BlackBerry, had to get wiped off from the market because they did not believe in bringing in a change at the holistic level. So this is the change that SIX is bringing in, emphasizing on people, emphasizing on the relentless improvement as part of the core values. Transparency and alignment is going to be still part of the core values for 6.0. And the updated principle number 6, again, if you remember, in this principle, we used to talk about three different things. The number one being, bringing in WIP limits. Then we used to talk about reduce the batch size for predictability and then manage queue lengths. All of them were actually focused on improving the flow inside the system. But now the name itself changing, saying make value flow without interruptions, is highlighting that organizations, especially the leaders, need to make sure that the value is flowing inside the system, inside the organization, without any interruptions, without any hindrances. And updating this principle is again bringing back the concept of flow at all levels that I'm going to talk about in my subsequent section as well. As Joe mentioned, roadmap, the proven steps that any organization needs to take to eventually achieve the state of business agility. You would see some of the things also getting changed in this roadmap, although these are some minor step changes that have happened. So for example, the tipping point has been taken off, and we are saying any organization that needs to start on this roadmap needs to go SAFe with first maybe the leaders and the executives getting trained on leading SAFe training, or maybe the SAFe executive workshop, where the change agents like you, like SPCs, may bring in what SAFe really stands about and how do executives can really look at their challenges and start thinking about implementation of SAFe and the roadmap that has been proven for many organizations. And other changes, as you can see, the organize around value term replaces the earlier term called, identification of value streams. It can be organizing around value, or if the organization already has some value stream defines, maybe it's also reorganizing around value. The other change that has been brought into the roadmap is to make sure the last but one step being called as enhance the portfolio instead of extending it to the portfolio. While we understand the portfolio does get involved early on and brings in initial practices to support the launch of arts and value streams, but later on in the roadmap, we also expect other practices that the portfolio should implement so that there's an overall holistic improvement across the organization. So you can see these are the changes that have also been brought in the roadmap. The focus is again to make sure the organization achieves the state of business agility by traversing through this roadmap. Other changes is something interesting. The word SAFe program consultant has now given way to SAFe practice consultants, which means to achieve the state of business agility, you need people, the change agents, especially the SPCs, to take the organizations and the leaders, coach them, train them, try and change the mindset of the people in the organization by accelerating the entire organization towards business agility, making sure everybody understand and embraces a lean agile mindset, taking the first step by leading the change and taking the organization in implementing SAFe roadmap, but also making sure that they are coaching flow and making sure the teams understand and again embrace the concepts of flow across the entire organization and the framework. And I'm going to talk about the flow in my next couple of slides as well as to why the flow is so important and how does it gel well to achieve the state of business agility. Right, so this was the part where we spoke up to this point about strengthening the foundations of business agility. And what Joe also mentioned earlier was when the organization starts to take business agility to different parts of the organization, that is where they try and see, are there any loopholes or gaps in achieving the business agility? Because again and again, optimizing just one component or part of the organization will never ever help the organization achieve a state of business agility. And that is where extending it to the other parts, making sure they are well aligned with the organization's state of business agility really helps the overall state to be achieved. The other part where accelerating value flow is key, is important, is by first identifying what are the common properties of any flow system. And right here, you can see SAFe has introduced, what commonly can be seen as the properties of flow. Obviously, there are work in progress limits. There are people work and they, create bottlenecks in the system. The work gets allocated in form of a queue. It flows like a batch, and eventually the feedback has to be taken for the people to see where are the bottlenecks and how can we really improvise on those bottlenecks. And corresponding to these properties, the 8 properties of a flow, what Joe was mentioning earlier are the 8 flow accelerators that would definitely help to optimize any kind of a flow that is there in the organization. Right? Some of these flow accelerators you might have seen in the earlier batches. So for example, again, taking you back to principle number 6, where we spoke about visualize and limit work in progress. We spoke about, reducing the batch size for creating some kind of a predictability, work in small batches. And finally, manage and reduce your queue length was already there. But again, mentioning all these flow accelerators is to make sure that the organization at all levels really understands how do we improve and optimize our flow. And the next slide obviously will show you, we'll talk about how bringing in, the flow at the portfolio level, at the large solution, art, and the team level will make sure that the entire organization, the entire system is doing their part perfectly. So for example, Joe mentioned, even if one part is not optimizing the flow, they are actually becoming the weakest link in the chain. And in turn, the entire organization is slowing down to reach the state of business agility. But that is where the role of the leaders becomes so important. And when I say leaders, it is not just the leaders sitting at the top, the leaders at all levels, to make sure people understand the concept of flow. People are really looking at, visualizing the flow, optimizing the flow, and very important, measuring the flow as well. Are we really growing? Are we really improvising on the flow or not? And this is where, if you see recommendations that are coming in, that at various levels, the people at that level. So for example, if you are at the team level, the team should continuously keep evaluating, keep measuring, keep monitoring the various matrices around flow. And these are just recommendations. You want to look at your velocity. Are we predictable in delivering velocities as per our plan? What kind of flow distribution do we have in our iterations? Are we focused only on delivering features and stories, or do we also look at carrying out enablers or doing the maintenance kind of work? Because quality is equally important when you are working at a team level. And the next part also covers what we generally see at the R level. Recommendations, again, coming in from the SAFe, saying, hey, at the art level, what are the various kind of matrices that we can possibly look at? Are we looking at the flow time for various features and enablers that the art works for? Is it predictable over a period of time? Or is it just, kind of a start, stop, start kind of a mentality that we have built at the art level? Similarly, look at the flow. Is it a consistent flow inside the PI, across the PIs over a period of time? Or again, we are delivering as a knee-jerk reaction whenever there is a demand from the market or the customer. So these two kind of measurements at the flow level, at the art and the team level, will also make sure that the organization is moving towards the state of business agility. And that is how these two are connected. Now, when you talk about leadership, the leadership's responsibility just doesn't stop at providing support or providing an environment. They also need to put their skin in the game. And that is where the concept of value stream management has been introduced. Now, value stream management as definition means right from the time the customer is demanding value to the time the value is delivered, is the flow of value optimized or not? And who better can make sure that such a flow is optimized? The leaders themselves. This is where the value stream management, because the portfolio needs to provide value both to the customer as well as to the enterprise, has to make sure that the value stream, the operational value streams, the development value streams are optimized. And again, there are no value hindrances inside the system. And last not the least, what really can help? It's obviously Kanban. Now, Kanban is not just a board that you create. Kanban is actually an entire system that works on three principles, where you first visualize the workflow, you try and find out the bottlenecks in that flow, and eventually look at how can we improvise on that flow. Bringing in Kanban also brings in a lot of transparency across the organization, across the system, and also make sure people are focused on a few things at a time rather than too many things. But eventually, not just applying Kanban alone at each level will help, making sure Kanbans of different levels are interconnected. So for example, the portfolio Kanban flows down, trickles down to the large solution to each art level, and eventually the art level Kanban is connected to the team level Kanban as well. And in this way, the organization will ensure that the flow is flowing seamlessly inside the organization, and the strategy can also be achieved whenever you have such a flow defined inside your system. Okay, so with this, I end my two sections around business agility and my flow, not without telling you that how are they interconnected. And we just spoke about that an organization need not be focused only on achieving agility in parts, but look at achieving business agility as an organization, and how flow working at all levels should be again interconnected with business agility, so that that state of business agility is achieved faster and without any hindrance. Right. So with this, I end my part as well. And like it said, may the flow be with you. And you make sure you go back, you identify whether the organization that you are working for has it really achieved the state of business agility? Are you still doing agile in pockets? Do you maintain, you visualize, you improve your flow or not? Do you do it at all levels inside the organization? So that's probably the food for thought for you guys, that you can always go back and see. And because SAFe is coming new, there are so many questions that must be coming to your mind, changes in terminology. It was not possible to cover everything in this 1 hour. And that is why we have scheduled another session for you guys next Thursday, where we'll be talking more like an ask me anything format. You can ask us questions, go back and explore more about it, and learn and grow. And that is where we'll be taking up your specific questions, one-to-one questions, and try and give you more in-depth insights around the new version SAFe 6.0. Please be in touch with us. We are reachable, like Devendra mentioned earlier, ResponsiveB website. You can email us, you can WhatsApp us at these numbers, and we are there for you. And we'll be very responsive in answering you guys as well. Halting here and taking up the questions that you guys might have for both Joe and me.
Yeah. So thanks a lot, Neeraj and Joe, for such an informative session and answering, most of the question via the Q&A window. So, before we open the floor for the audience, I believe there are some of the questions which we have in Q&A, which we prefer to answer live. So I'll talk the first question, which is there. The first one is that, can you touch upon why big data was introduced in the portfolio flow? So, Joe, if you can please take that.
Sure. Yeah, not a problem. So big data isn't only relegated to portfolio flow, but it often comes up there because a lot of focus on big data is epics that have been developed for that large scale. And so we're looking for those types of enablers at that level, platform that we can actually manage and understand the value. So it's about the flow being delivered, it's about the value being delivered, but big data isn't only there. It's just often we encounter those enablers as well as business-facing epics that occur at that portfolio level, and big data certainly influences that area. I might make the argument that it's influenced a lot in the large solution as well, because big data is often part of a large solution. So you would probably see it there as well. So it's not just in that area, but the reason it's there is part of the reason why we have those lean business cases and the epics, and we're trying to measure those outcomes. And so that's why that was there. Don't read too much into that. Okay, and
We are muted.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks for answering that. Our next question is, what would be the remediation plan if current configuration is in progress?
Yeah, so this was actually asked when Joe was talking about, the various kind of arts for extending between business and technology, those 5 patterns. So that's where this question came.
yeah, and under what conditions the scenario, the agile business train. Yeah, I want to be clear. It's not as if we are necessarily creating a new train. We might have to if we're not engaging them properly. But what we're really saying is, in order to engage, like I said before, just getting IT and development efficient, you're only solving half the problem. And if the business can't leverage that efficiency, then what have you really gained? Not much from a systems perspective. So the point here is, how do we engage business people in an agile way that results in meaningful outcomes and really take steps towards business agility? And before, there was really no meaningful interaction. We looked at those as silos, right? Okay, business people, you're kind of over here in the business, the operational value stream. And, you know, you guys on the development side, you're over here, you're in a completely different value stream, you're in development. And more, we needed people that were able to cross those bridges. So as we started doing more of the development within SAFe 6, as we started developing this business agility value stream, we said, you know what? We're seeing that there's more and more crossover here. We're interested in business agility, business outcomes. Where are those people located? Well, they're all in the business. They're all in that operational side of things. Well, who do we have over there on that operational side? Well, we have executive leadership, of course, in the LPM. We have people that are just working in finance. We have people that are working in HR, but they reach out and they touch developers that are working on those agile release trains. And so they need engagement in those trains at all. And somebody, Naveen, had asked the question, well, what's the difference between, you know, this business value stream? And if you've got, so I'll try to kind of rehash what I was saying before in my presentation, which is if you've got business people that are on teams. So let's say you have a small HR, an agile HR team, a small agile HR marketing team, and they interact with the developers quite often, then those teams would be part of this business enabled art, right? You need those business people, maybe even legal, right? Maybe you're developing something that has a click-through license on it or something like that. And you have a small agile legal team. And yes, legal can be agile as well. I know that sounds weird, but it's true. And what we're really noticing out there in the market is there are already these things in existence. There was already agile HR in existence before SAFe started bringing it in. There was already agile and lean finance before we started bringing it in. There was already agile marketing with their own set of principles before we brought it in. So we're acknowledging that these agile teams exist and they have a purpose in gaining business agility. And that purpose is to help enable the trains. That is different from the business train, which is all of the teams on there are operationally, and they're all in one train developing or delivering a business process. The difference between a business value stream, there is no business train value stream. What it is it's an operational value stream that has a business train on it. Or it's a development value stream that has developers, configurers, testers, all that stuff that's on that as well. So I'm hoping that answers those questions.
Sure, Joe. That answers the question. And before moving to the next question, I'll again, remind that I've posted the link for the upcoming webinar, which is on next Thursday, to answer all the other questions that we might not be able to cover today. So please register for that. You can also go to our website, right? So I'll just show you how you can register if you missed the link. You can go to our website and, we have a new tab on SAFe 6.0. Please click on that. And, we'll also upload this video here. We'll be sharing it with you over email. You have all the required information which is there. And there also you can click and you can register. So there are various ways that you can register for that. So please register. And now, I'll have an open floor. So Vishal has raised his hand for quite a long time. So I think it's time for Vishal to ask his question. I'll just say allow. Yeah, Vishal, please ask your question. Vishal, are you there? You're on mute.
Is he able to unmute himself?
Yeah, I just
Yes, we gave the option, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So maybe once he comes back, I think by then, we can look at the next question. How is SAFe 6 applicable in developing machine learning models?
Yeah, in the time we have available, I've gone ahead and copied, I think, the article that answers those questions. It's more than just machine learning. There are other types of learning models that AI uses, and we kind of go over the differences of those different types of AI in that section. Also, there's a lot of people that are asking. I'm wondering if guys, does it make sense? Yes, there's one area where we still have the word program in it, and that's by design. And that has to do with really definitions of done and things like that. But yeah, we're moving away from the word program, and the reason for that is it's too often linked with waterfall type stuff and programmatic things and these containers. We don't want that. Projects don't have value. Projects are containers. You won't really find the word, except for the one place, program, and you won't find the word projects in SAFe either, because these are antithetical to flow. They are start, stop, continue kinds of things. So we don't want program. We don't want programs. We don't want those kinds of things. And we don't want projects either. We want flow. We want a continuous flow of value. Projects, programs are antithetical to that flow. Guys, I'm just wondering, does it make sense? We've gotten a lot of questions about how to do the upgrade to SAFe 6. Does it make sense if I should just log into the community site?
Yeah, I think those kind of questions we will be taking in the next webinar, because I know there are so many queries around certification and enablements and so on and so forth. So I think those should be probably parked for those sessions, or maybe guys, please connect with us offline. We will help you answer those queries around certification and enablements. But for now, let's use this time to look at the questions around what we covered as content, business agility, flow. If you have questions around that, please do shoot questions. And we just have a few minutes to do that actually. Yeah.
I am back. This is Vishal. So my question is around the whole focus of SAFe 6.0 is to imbibe the organizations to business agility. So so some organizations which don't follow SAFe and they follow the SAFe, they take SAFe as an they emulate SAFe. So what would be your advice, Joe, in terms of those organizations, because they really don't have value streams, but then they try to emulate some of the practices of SAFe? What would be your advice to those organizations which actually don't follow SAFe, but they emulate SAFe?
Those organizations really, really concern me. And the reason they concern me is because you really do have to start with value streams. All companies have value streams, all of them. You either have value streams or you're out of business, you cease to exist. So the question isn't about creating or inventing the value streams, it's really about identifying the value streams. And if a company is not willing to do that, that tells me they're not invested in understanding the flow and organizing around the flow of value. And so SAFe is not just a collection of practices that people emulate. That is not the purpose of SAFe. SAFe, as identified by Gartner, has 10 basic critical elements that are listed on there. If you are not doing those 10 critical elements, you cannot say that you are doing SAFe. You can say you're doing SAFe-like. You can say I borrowed and created a Frankenstein version of SAFe, but it's not SAFe. In the same way that people struggled to get any productivity out of Agile, but you find out that they're not really doing Agile, they're doing Scrum, but we have Scrum, but we don't do daily stand-ups. We have Scrum, but we don't have product owners, right? So it's the same thing. You'll get mixed results because you're doing a mixed implementation that doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Okay, thank you.
I understand, there are a lot more questions to be answered, but we are on top of the hour. So I believe we have to halt here. And I'll again thank Joe and Neeraj for sharing such a good knowledge on SAFe 6.0 and answering all the questions. And thanks to all our attendees for taking time out and joining us today. For all the questions that you have, we will be catching up again next Thursday, and we will make sure that we answer all your questions. Thank you very much. Have a good night, good day, depending on from where you are joining. Thank you so much. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Dev.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Joe, for joining in.
Absolutely.